Hey guys, it's Paul here. Halloween's coming up, and sometimes, during this time of year, I sit there and go, "What the heck am I gonna watch?" And I sit there, I don't know, try googling stuff, looking up articles, go on streaming services. They're trying to throw heat. It's hard to pick a movie, and then eventually, it's 9:30, and I'm sitting there going, "Well, that was a waste of time. I'm just gonna go to bed." So Tim and I thought, we would make your life a lot easier this year. Basically, all you have to do is just listen to me and Tim, okay? Just listen to me and Tim for everything and every decision in your life. That's actually probably not a good idea. Give me a couple picks for the movie here, see how that goes, and then we can talk about financial advice. So Tim and I thought that maybe we would pick a couple of our favorites and talk about them and tell you why maybe you should watch one of these for Halloween. Normally when we do the podcast, we're taking kind of a gamble on movies that we think kind of suck, or they're going to suck at least. We're kind of doing the opposite here. We're going to give you movie recommendations that we think are worth checking out. I tried to pick two movies that were a little different here, so they're not exactly the same. One is more of a serious horror movie, and the other is more of a fun kind of movie. So the first movie that I think you might want to check out this Halloween is John Carpenter's The Thing.
Somebody in this camp ain't what he appears to be. Right now, that may be one or two of us. By spring, it could be all of us.
So how do we know who's human?
I don't want to say too much about the movie because I don't want to spoil it, but the movie is about a research team in Antarctica that discovers the existence of a shape-shifting alien. And that's a very loose way to explain what happens without really saying what happens. In case you haven't seen this movie, I really think that you should just go and check it out because it's a masterpiece in my opinion. One of the reasons why I do think this is such an impressive horror movie is the special effects by Rob Bottin. If you're not sure who Rob Bottin is, he did the special effects for Total Recall, Seven. He also worked with John Carpenter on The Fog, and he did the effects for RoboCop. And wow. I mean, quick story here. In grade 2, I went over to my buddy's house to play Sega Genesis with him, and he had RoboCop on VHS, and he said, "Hey, do you want to check it out?" I'd never seen RoboCop. And at the start of the movie, like 6 gang members with shotguns murder this guy Murphy, just blow him to bits. When I saw this, like my head exploded. I couldn't believe this. So just saying, that is the level of effects and carnage that you're going to get with The Thing. So it's kind of just a little bit of a warning before you even watch it. This movie is pretty intense. So if you're looking for a nice, a nice, easy, light, scary movie for Halloween, this is probably not it. This movie is off the wall insane. Some of the craziest special effects I've ever seen committed to film ever. This is definitely the gold standard for monster movies. This and American Werewolf in London, I think, in my opinion, are among some of the greatest monster movies out there. There are so many crazy. I want to talk about it, but I don't want to ruin it in case you've never seen it. One of the things that makes this movie great too is the fact that it stars Kurt Russell. And honestly, anything Kurt Russell's in, I'll watch it. I think the guy is the man. I love all of his movies. I think he's great. So, I mean, just watching him in this movie, it's just like he's such a serious dude. Gives off such this cool guy vibe. It's just so you follow him around this entire movie, and it's just wicked to be hanging out with Snake Plissken for 2 hours. The soundtrack in this movie too, it's amazing. It's atmospheric. It's pulsing, and it's really impressive. It's really good. And it's not like you're getting sound all the time too. It's very sparsely used, and it's very appropriate, I find. It's very ominous, creepy, and it really helps create a vibe of isolation when it needs to, tension when it needs to, and just pulls you in and sucks you in. Because one of the other good things about this movie too is that it's directed by John Carpenter. And I mean, John Carpenter he's a fantastic director. He has a number of these dolly shots in this movie where some of them are in the examination room when they're looking at stuff. I don't really want to give anything away, but everybody's in sort of the lab. They're all together, and the camera will just sort of pan around all the characters, and it really makes feels like a tight space. Like you're right in with everybody too. but at the same time, you have a lot of room within the shot as well, too, to see everything and just watch everybody, because you kind of need to see what's going on, too, a bit. It really makes for an interesting, almost whodunit sort of suspense movie. And there's also all these different little dolly shots too, where you're going through the hallways as well too, and there's crates everywhere in it as well, and it just creates, again, like a really good sense of claustrophobia. You're in this really tight compartmentalized space for most of the movie. Sometimes you're out flying around, but a lot of the movie is inside of this little lab that they are working in the middle of the Arctic. So when the movie starts, there's a sequence that's a little confusing if you haven't seen this movie, so you don't really know what's going on, and you only know what's given to you and what you can see in front of you. As the movie unfolds, it does a really good job of slowly turning up the temperature, turning up the tension, turning up the stakes, and creating a really atmospheric, tight vibe. When the movie starts too, it's daytime. And as you go through the movie, it's sort of the light gets sucked out of the movie. You're going into nighttime, and it stays in at nighttime for pretty much most of the movie as well, too. You're inside, you're in a lot of dark spaces. It really contributes to the overall vibe of you just being trapped in a space with a lot of stuff going on that's really, really uncomfortable and really, really terrifying. So the first time I saw this movie was actually with Tim, believe it or not. I was about 19, and Tim brought the thing over to my house, and we watched it, and a couple things happened that night. One, I honestly, being a 19-year-old sort of man-child at the time, I found it really hard to sleep that night. The movie was really unsettling, I thought, because I had never seen anything this crazy before. I don't want to give anything away, but I will say the alien is a shapeshifter and can be anything, and that is what Rob Bottin was given when he created these animations. He was told that it can be anything. So this guy really just let his imagination run wild. So what you do get is, to me, honestly, it's horrific. It's a little unsettling, but like, it's just crazy that somebody actually built this stuff, made it, fabricated it, and you know that it's just movie magic, but it's so intense. And it's so horrific and so real, and it's so in the moment. And it's just, this movie, when the action horror scenes happen, you're really on the edge of your seat, and you're really just gripping it like, I got to get the hell out of here. The other realization was, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't seen this movie up until now, because I had heard people say that this was a good movie before, and I thought, okay, yeah, whatever. And Tim brought this over and blew my mind. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe people made this. I couldn't believe there wasn't another sequel to this. But I really think that it's definitely worthwhile. It's a very tight movie. If you really want to, freak yourself out of your friends on Halloween and you haven't seen this movie, turn the lights off, turn this thing up, and just prepare yourself. It's an absolute blast. But just a warning that, like, it is intense and it's quite graphic. So the next thing that I think you should watch for Halloween here is one of my personal favorite movies, actually, just in general. Not even just scary movies, just movies in general. I really, really am a big fan of this movie. So the next movie I think you should watch on Halloween is The Lost Boys.
You're a creature of the night, Michael. Just like out of a comic book. You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a goddamn shit-sucking vampire. Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy. Sam, you wait. Sam!
This is such a fun movie. It was originally pitched as The Goonies with vampires, and it is exactly that. But originally, I do believe that the kids were supposed to be somewhat along the lines of Cub Scouts, and Joel Schumacher suggested they change it to teenagers and make it a little sexier, a little dangerous. And they went with it, and I think it's a great idea. And what we got was, in my opinion, a fantastic movie. This movie is really fun. I think that's the biggest thing I can say about this movie. If you just want to have fun on Halloween and watch a cool movie and laugh with your friends and not get scared and have just a fun vibe, but still, watch something with monsters in it, this is the exact movie for you. The movie is about two brothers, Michael, who's played by Jason Patric, and Sam, who's played by Corey Haim, who move with their mother to Santa Carla, and they soon discover the town is full of vampires. That is probably the best and easiest way to explain it without going too far into the movie. Because again, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen this movie. And this movie has a lot of famous people too for the 80s as well. it's got Kiefer Sutherland. He's a vampire in this movie. Alex Winter, who was Bill from Bill and Ted, he's also a vampire in this movie too. Corey Feldman's in this movie. Corey Feldman's in this movie. That's how 80s this movie is. Oh wow, it's such an awesome movie. And I got to say, I really like the world that they create in this movie too. It's really fun. It's really lively. It has sort of an endless summer kind of vibe to it. The kids are always alone. It seems like Michael and Sam are always doing their own thing. The grandpa's not around. Mom's working. And they're left to figure things out for themselves with their friends, And especially, myself, I kind of resonate with that because that was basically my entire summer was, when I was like 11 or 12, my mom was like, all right, you're home. You got to be responsible to watch your brother. So don't murder each other and I'll be back at 5:00. So just that whole vibe to me is just like, I get that. I really do think that Corey Haim is really good in this movie. He's a really fun kid. So I was only a kid. I was born at the end of the 80s. So I really didn't experience a lot of the actual 80s and the craze and the trends and whatever came on. But I can kind of see why the two Coreys were kind of a thing for a bit there because they are really fun on the screen when you see them. Corey Feldman works at a comic shop that his two comatose stoner parents own. And him and his brother work there. And they run into Sam along the way, who is played by Corey Haim. And just them running around trying to like look for vampires in this town and fight vampires. It's really fun, and they just get into a lot of trouble. And Michael's out doing his cool guy thing with his dirt bike and stuff. And I thought, I don't want to. So spoiler alert here. If you haven't seen Lost Boys, maybe you want to skip ahead here because I don't really want to give anything away. But I always thought the grandpa was a vampire hunter. Maybe he is. It seems a little open-ended at the end of this movie because, again, spoiler alert, he definitely, he knows that there's vampires in town. And he showed up at the end with a stake, like perfectly aimed off his car or whatever, which is a whole other thing, which I still don't get. But I always thought there was more, there was deleted scenes and extra stuff. Maybe, there was like an extra backstory to the movie that was going on with Grandpa, and we didn't get it in the deleted scenes. That's what I always kind of thought was going on. I had this weird, for a minute there, when I'd watch it, I like had my own little fan theory I was trying to develop on whether or not Grandpa knew that there was vampires and he was just leaving all the time and then secretly just going into the bushes and watching the boys kind of thing, making sure they were being okay. That was kind of the vibe I got from it, but there's other things that kind of contradict it later. But Gramps is such a cool guy in this movie. He's awesome. I don't know who plays Grandpa in this movie off the top of my head, but the guy is really funny. He sort of plays this weird stoner hippie kind of recluse who you kind of meet in the movie and you get glimpses of him and he does his own thing. But he's not there a lot too. But whenever you do see Grandpa in the movie, I think he's a bit of a scene stealer. I think he's hilarious. Another reason why I think this movie's so great is the soundtrack. I have the soundtrack on my phone and I listen to this thing all the time. Right off the top, one of the top tracks on here, it's called Lost in the Shadows, and it's by Lou Gramm, who is the lead singer to Foreigner. And that guy, in my opinion anyways, has one of the best, like, strongest voices in rock. Like, he's up there with Freddie. He's really good. It's a really great voice. And the song is awesome. I think it's a banger. Roger Daltrey has a song on here. There's two INXS tracks on here. Echo and the Bunnymen cover People Are Strange. There's another track on here called Beauty Has Her Way by Mummy Callis, and I think that's just a great song too. I think it's a fantastic song. It's sort of like a romantic song, and it comes on whenever you see Jamie Gertz. She's sort of the love interest to Michael in this movie, and it's such an awesome song. I think it's so cool. It's really nice and kind of spacey and 80s. It's great. And I can't forget too, one of the main reasons you should check the soundtrack out too is the sexy sax man, Tim Capello, and he has a song called I Still Believe. It's a cover. I'm pretty sure, I think it's a Johnny Cash song. I could be wrong on that. Someone, feel free to fact check me. But that's a wicked song. And that's like a whole moment in the movie too. I think they call it the sexy sax man. It's this guy. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a guy who basically kind of looks like Shawn Michaels from the WWF. and he's all greased up, and he's got a saxophone. And Tim Capello was the I believe at this point was the sax player for Tina Turner. And this guy's just all greased up, and he's playing his saxophone, rocking out with his band, and everyone's headbanging. And that moment in the movie is so cool. The sets in this movie look great too. It's supposed to take place in a make-believe town of Santa Carla in California. I believe it's actually Santa Cruz, California. And they made them change the name, I think, because they didn't want people thinking, I don't know, there was bad publicity for them or something, maybe, even though people film movies in California all the time, but they said change the name. But just how the movie is shot too, it's really pretty. A lot of it, you're down at the boardwalk. It's really cool. There's like punk kids walking around, people skateboarding, just people surfing, people roller skating, people just having a time, doing their thing down there, riding rides. And there's just everybody is just down there hanging out. There's comic book stores. It's just this really cool place that they set up. It seems like that's where all of the action happens in town. And it seems that where they live with their grandpa is sort of remote, and it's kind of out of the way. So there's nothing else around them, and there's no one else around them. So the only time they can interact with people is they have to go into the town, which is where maybe or maybe not there's vampires. But I highly recommend this movie. Everything about this, I think, is just packaged so well, and it's just got a great vibe to it. It's just like, it's a blockbuster summer fun movie. I love it, and I think you should check it out.